On this Roll for Crit preview, we're talking about a Kickstarter game called Catch Don Falconi, a game that is all about crime and Italian food and the intersection thereof. The Don has a sinister plan involving a dangerous hot sauce that can also be used to fuel cars to accelerate far faster than they should, and is selling it through his pizza shops. It's up to the other players to track him down and put a stop to these shenanigans before he causes too much harm.
Catch Don Falconi is a 1v all game where one side is playing as the Don himself, trying to avoid or escape, while the other side plays as the police, trying to catch the Don. There are 5 different gameplay variants. We're going to mostly go over the Pizza Diavola version. Regardless of which variant you're playing, the core mechanic of every single one is placing these road tiles that will be shuffled into these stacks, with different patterns being straightaways, turns, overpasses, and placing them near wherever your player piece is to move forward. Now, in the version we're discussing, you will have 3 action points when it comes to your turn. These can be spent on different actions. The main one will be involving these road tiles. The first thing you can do is place one. Take one from your reserve, put it on the street next to wherever your piece is. That's important because you can't just place somewhere else, so the cops can't try to just block off the Don before you even get started. The other thing you can do is take a tile and add it to your reserve. However, the Don players are face down, so they get to keep a little bit of secrets in terms of what they can do on their turn. Another option is simply drive. Move forward to the next tile. And as you can guess, you can keep playing new tiles, moving around, hopefully trying to avoid the police. If you end up here and wish to change directions, you can do the 3-point turn action. This allows you to change directions, but be warned, this costs all 3 of your action points, so it's going to take up your entire turn. Once you have spent all your action points, your turn ends and play will continue clockwise to your left.
Ultimately, the police are attempting to corner Don Falconi to get up behind him on the same side of the street that he is on so that they can collide with him, and if they are able to do so successfully, they have captured the Don and they have won the game. But Don Falconi has a couple of tricks up his sleeve to try to avoid this. He is going to have a couple of different types of items. There are chili boosts and chili bombs. So the chili bombs are more of a defensive item. If a car manages to catch up to him, he can use one of those to destroy a section of road behind him, block it off so that they can no longer pass. The other tool that he has at his disposal is the chili boost. This can be used for different things. One of them is to move forward 3 tiles all in one go. So you get to move 3 spaces, but it only costs 1 action. So if the Don feels like he's outnumbered or cornered somewhere, he is able to make a little bit of a quick getaway. Its other use comes into play if and when the Don is meeting a dead end on the road. Normally that's bad news. If you hit a dead end, you have nowhere to go, you lose the game. But if he has a chili boost, he can use it to destroy what is blocking that road and make a clear path to move again right through and onto some new tiles. Remember, you only have 2 of each of these items if you're Don Falconi, so you have to be careful and decide when and where you want to use them strategically. If the Don saves the chili boost for a time when a police officer is in front of him, he can use that to actually knock them out of the road and out of the game, and that player will be eliminated. A player will also be eliminated if they run into one of those dead ends we mentioned somewhere on the board and they have nowhere to go to. They will be out of the game, keeping Don Falconi one step closer to victory. And the other way Don Falconi might find victory is through an escape tile. Somewhere in those piles will randomly be 3 different escape tiles. Once one of those is drawn, if it's drawn by a police officer, it must be placed onto one of the edge spaces of the board that matches that color. So the boat would go in this area where there's an ocean theme. And if Don Falconi is able to make it to that escape tile, he meets one of his companions and he escapes either by boat or by train, whatever the case may be, and he has won the game. Like we said, there are those simpler variants if you are just learning the game or want something that plays quicker and easier. They work similarly, but they're a little pared down. You will just be drawing tiles from the top of the stack. Maybe you will then add the option to have a reserve card, gradually increasing the complexity until you make it up to this final variant of the game.
Now, I'm a little torn here because I do love hot food, so I gotta respect the Don for making some awesome hot sauce. However, something that lets you go faster in a car does sound like less of an actual hot sauce and more of some ethanol mixed with some chili peppers.
Yes, it's unclear to me. Are people actually eating this hot sauce, or is it strictly kind of an underground business they're using to
It's
sell it?
a hot sauce, but really it's just some very dangerous nitroglycerin or something.
Yeah, you want to be careful when you're walking into this pizza shop. It could be dangerous. The game itself, you saw, we explained, like we said, at kind of the most advanced variant, and you can pare it down further and further, or start at the bottom and work your way up to that version of it. But even at the top level, it's not that complicated of a game. It's all about tile laying and creating these crazy patterns. I think you saw some even a little bit on display in the video, but you can come up with, whether it's on purpose or by accident, some road layouts that should not be sanctioned by any government, local government, in terms of the layout of any city streets, really.
Yeah, we had some very strange, like overpasses over overpasses kind of deal going on. I will say also that I probably mostly playing the mode we explained, but even with the other modes, I sort of like the idea of just place and go, since that it combined the move and placing action. It felt a little faster, which almost makes more sense in this, since you're not following the speed limit in this game. You are booking it as both sides.
Yeah.
And it is interesting with the exits because yes, as the cops, if you reveal them, you don't want the Don to be able to reach them. You're pretty much showing a goal. But by placing them in a very not optimal place, you can pretty much either trap the area and know that like if you go there, you're gonna be in trouble, or just make it very annoying for him to get there. Obviously, as the Don, getting those are very nice because you can make sure you're like, all right, I can place it where I want to. We also didn't point out, but there are two tunnels on the corners of the board, so you can pretty much crisscross, similar to the secret passages, I think, of Clue and stuff. So the corners aren't dead zones.
Yes, that is true. So there are a few different ways that kind of help even the playing field. The tunnels are a big one, so that Don Falconi has an opportunity to get out of the way if he's really in a tough spot, because he is outnumbered. Now you can also play this depending on how many players. It could just be one-on-one with one police car, or three players, each one controlling a police car, or just having one person control all three. It's up to you and what level of chaos and interaction you enjoy. And there's an interesting thing as the game starts because, at the beginning, nobody is in the same place and you're gradually building towards each other, and you are going to build a different map each time, and you do have to take into account, what do I want to build? Is it something that's going to help me maneuver around, or something that's going to cut other people off and make some tough places, some tough dead ends? And then once everyone gets together, that's where the chaos starts, and you're crashing, you're making crazy turns all over the place. The game might end quickly at that point unless someone is able to make a snappy getaway.
Yeah, I am pretty not adverse. I'm pretty likely to crash in games. I don't know, when it comes to cars and board games, I the insurance companies would not like me. I will say though, I really do enjoy. I never felt like in some of these games, 1v-alls, like I think of Whitechapel, for example, that there's ever the one player who's just like, well, I'm probably out for the next 5 rounds. Usually you can catch up, whether it's through the tunnel systems we mentioned before or some of the weird zany roads, that you don't feel that you're useless, which I think is a pretty nice in these 1v-all games. And it did seem that the Don usually had enough tricks up his sleeve, especially with those bombs and being able to open paths or even just stop being captured, that it didn't feel like the game would end too unfairly and quickly for them. It usually felt like, yeah, I used up all my options.
Yeah. I think Letters from Whitechapel is a kind of an interesting comparison. I thought it kind of feels like a hidden movement game, only the movement's not hidden. You're although his tiles are hidden, so what move he's going to make next, you might not be sure about. But it kind of has that feeling to it, the feeling of a lot of different 1v-all type of games, I would say. In terms of other comparisons, it made me feel a little bit kind of like Bomberman or even Mario Kart's battle mode. If we're looking at video games, it's that kind of like zany like run around and try to hit each other.
Honestly, going to where we made one really crazy mess of a tile stair. I remember you saying like, we just made a Mario level.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Right. Yeah, that can happen. Or also like something like I compared it to Soro, which is another tile laying game, but whereas that game is it's kind of Zen like. This one is much more tense, and you're like, around every corner is danger.
I do think, especially the Dons feels a bit more like the Mario Party because you have in essence, the bombs you can use to shake a cop off. If they catch you, it's like a life.
It's like a throw. Right. It's like the balloons in battle mode.
The cops, I would say, feel a lot more, at least to me, like Snake, where you're really trying not to hit a dead end. Because that's really dangerous. Yes, there are other alternatives, and like you want to make sure you watch those exits because that's probably the big way the Don's going to win if the game lasts too long. But other than that, you don't want to get kicked off because if you get crash and you're out of the game, that gives Don a lot more actions between the other players in order to hopefully either escape or watch everyone else crash.
Yeah, it's a pretty easy game to set up. It does take up a fair bit of table space, and there is also there can be player elimination if you're not careful, but the games don't last super long in most cases, but that's something to note as you're looking at this title. If you want something that has the feel of kind of a crazy battle racing game with a very silly theme of mobsters and dangerous hot sauce, then Catch Don Falconi is something that you may want to take a look at. We're going to put a link to it in our description down below so you can see more details about what it's going to look like, what comes with the game, and every other detail like that. And let us know in the comment section if you're thinking of catching Don Falconi or not.
Let us know how you like your hot sauce, and if you put in your car engine for some reason, I would not suggest that. We'd love to hear from you. Until then, I'm Will.
I'm Jonathan.
And this has been a Roll for Crit preview.
Do us a favor, like this video, subscribe to our channel, or if you really like us, you can support us on Patreon. Become a high roller today for exclusive bonus content. We also have a podcast now. You can check that out at rollforcrit.com/podcast. Weekly episodes with special guests you definitely want to listen to.